In this video, we have two game developers talk about the latest news on Nintendo. My name is Mustafa. I've experience in the game industry. I've worked at Treyarch, I've worked at Zwift, and I currently do indie games. And I'm joined by Oujirou.
Hi, I'm Oujirou. I've been working in game development for a bit over 15 years on the programming side, and then later in the build and release side of things. So I've been around for a while.
All right, so we're talking about Nintendo, and there's been lots of news regarding Nintendo lately. These two articles I want to cover. So very briefly, this first article, basically Nintendo, they updated their EULA, and they the wording with the new EULA basically says that if they detect that you're doing anything that they don't like, they can not only disable your account, but they can make your hardware inoperable as well.
Yeah, this is insane. Because whenever I see any kind of anti-consumer practice like this, what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of these companies look to each other for ideas. So in this case, it's, oh, you're doing something we don't like, you don't get to use your Switch. And some other company's going to see that and say, oh, we can do that? We can just disable the thing that you bought? That's great. We're going to sell more of whatever our item is. There's so much more than just Switch with what's going on right here. It's really bad. This is awful.
Just to really summarize this really quick, the other article I have, so Nintendo's EULA, as I mentioned, has been updated, and there's also a clause basically telling them that if you agree to their terms, you can't take them to court. You agree to arbitration, and of course they have the best of lawyers. They have an army of lawyers, and going to arbitration, you're gonna automatically put yourself at a complete disadvantage and never get any sort of justice.
Yeah, I think they had 2 class actions for the Switch for the Joy-Cons being bad. And seeing this, I know they're like, oh no, we totally fixed it. And it's like, did you though? Like, why would you remove our legal protections here if your controllers still aren't just a pile of garbage?
Yeah. Just looking at this, you may like the related articles. One of them is about the Joy-Cons. Nintendo's been just doing so many things that are very anti-consumer at this point. With this article specifically, the first thing I was thinking of, which is mentioned down here in the bottom, was that Disney also had a similar situation where they say that you can't sue them if you agree to the Disney Plus terms. So
that was a wild story.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't heard of that story, it's very crazy. Like, a man takes his wife to, what was it, Disneyland or something?
Yeah.
Disneyland. And then she dies due to a food allergy at a restaurant. And then he couldn't sue because he had a Disney Plus account.
Yeah, I think they dropped it eventually because initially they filed and they were like, oh no, you can't sue us. And then everyone was so mad at them. They were like, never mind. You can totally sue us. It's totally okay.
Yeah.
But how many other cases have we not heard about where someone said, oh, you signed up for a free trial? Tough luck, buddy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just looking at both of these situations and all the Nintendo news we've been seeing recently with the price increase, not only for games, but they're also increasing the price of their hardware for the current generation hardware. It gives me the impression that Nintendo has gotten too comfortable sitting in a nice spot. After the Wii U, they were in a bad spot. The Wii U, they were a very bad spot. But now with the Switch, they're very comfortable, and they've gone back to being very anti-consumer.
Yeah, I think, I understand to some extent the price increases with the increased hardware. I think we can all get that, higher quality games. The thing that with this whole release where I'm just kind of blown away by, and now adding with all this to it, is them kind of enshrining that game key idea. They had the option to say, no, if you're going to release on this platform, you need to have a game on the disc, because they have so many loyal people that are Nintendo fans. and they've just consistently been like, yeah, you're going to own less, you're going to own less. Actually, we own the right to your console. Oh, you don't get to sue us for these things. And I know with the class action stuff, that's kind of par of the course for a lot of these companies, because in some cases, even if you win a class action lawsuit, you may get like $2 or like maybe a gift card to a store or a coupon, and the lawyers make most of the money. So, like, I don't think that's as big. I think in addition, part of this article talks about how they're going to store audio and video on your console, and if you do something that they deem might be a breach of their terms of service, they have the right to review that footage. So they're recording you and looking at you just by using their product, which I don't think anyone's particularly a fan of. I know as AI is getting more and more entrenched with these companies where they're like, oh, this is a quick boost to stock value. What is it? Windows, where they're trying to just consistently capture your screen for AI purposes, or basically every other company, Adobe, saying that they're going to use your work for AI, but they insist that they're not going to use it for, work of their own yet. It's just really, a very anti-consumer, in this case, anti-privacy. And again, for all of these times where you've got these people that are pushing for these things, other companies are going to look at it and say, oh, did the Nintendo fans, did they buy it? Are they fine with it? And then it's just the next thing. I saw, I think, a fantastic example of like a high-end product that was made by Mutahar, where he was talking about how like BMW has the heated seats you have to pay for.
Yeah.
Like, what if you hack around that? Did they just get to disable your whole car? Is that the new standard we're going to have in America? It's just a huge net negative, I think, in every way, because it's going to bleed out to other things after this.
I can understand from the perspective of saying, like, if you tamper with this product, then it no longer it voids it out from the warranty. We're not going to fix it, things of that nature. But when it comes to like, hey, you tampered with this, we're going to disable it for you. You never actually owned it to begin with. And that is definitely like crossing a line, especially when you are purchasing hardware. When you are purchasing something you can physically put into your home, you're holding in your hands, you bring in your home, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, you can't do anything with this at all. I mean, what next? You can't put decals on it because you covered up the Nintendo logo. We need to make sure that you see the Nintendo logo at all times.
You didn't use an official accessory, like you used like knockoff Joy-Cons, so we're going to disable a feature or something. Like there's a lot there. And how do they enforce that the console is dead? Like, does it mean it has to connect to the internet and then it says, no, this console is dead, don't let it be in use? Because like there are a lot of malicious actors out there that are going to see this and say, oh, I get to just brick people's switches? That sounds awesome. Like, how can I go about doing this to like screw someone over at like a convention or something for fun? Because there are a lot of bad actors out there that are just, they find that stuff hilarious.
Yeah.
So the implementation of how this works, I'm not quite sure. If it is just always online console, so, you can't use it offline, and once you do get online, it checks to see if this, hardware ID is valid, and if it isn't, shut it down. I guess that's one thing, but this shouldn't be a conversation at all. This is really awful. And there's so many people that are going to say, oh, well, just don't pirate things. Just don't do X, just don't do Y. And it's fine. This is all fine because it's not going to affect me. But as this rolls out to other products over time and we lose more rights as consumers, lose more like privacy with a lot of these things, it's going to keep affecting us. It's effectively like boiling a frog, where you're just like, oh yeah, it's bad, but it's not too bad. It's fine. It's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, you give them an inch and then they take a mile. They keep on trying to push what's acceptable. They want to make this the norm, so then they push it a little bit further and give you a new norm. And that way, like they are constantly, as you're saying, taking away our rights, taking away what's actually ours. making everything into a service rather than owning anything. I mean, Nintendo's been very bad with like game preservation. They've like on many occasions they stop people from streaming games. They're the biggest ones that are anti-emulation. Even though like the way how they provide their virtual archived games is also very anti-consumer. Like, you don't actually own them. They have multiple different online stores, and they'll just randomly shut down the stores that they decide that they don't want anymore. And even though you owned a game on this digital store, now you have no access to it ever again because they shut it down.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that's going to have to like be government action to kind of fix that, because these are public companies. Mm-hmm. So for shareholders, they hear something where it's like, oh, I can just invalidate their games on this platform, so if they have to buy it again, like, that's fantastic for me as a shareholder. None of these companies that are really investor driven care about any of the consumers or the gamers or anything. They're just trying to get to the next quarterly earnings and get their bonuses. So like, I know there's the Stop Killing Games initiative in the EU. I haven't seen anything really out of the United States where you can kind of push for this physical ownership of your games like right now. I hope as time goes on, because like the indie scene is really kicking off for a lot of places, for a lot of smaller studios, because AAA is just like disgustingly bad. Yeah, like falling apart. Like I need to talk soon about the 6,500 plus people that worked on Assassin's Creed Shadows versus the 60 that were working at Claire Obscure. Like, this is the scale for these places. So when they see something where they can say, oh, that was very expensive to build, how can I make them buy this multiple times over the years? Because they're already selling them for like $70, $80. Yeah. But I would like to see some of these indie places get into like the printing of their own physical media over time, because I think there's a lot of people that would love that. Like, they get a game on Steam or something and they enjoy it, but it's on Steam. You have a license to the game. But if you had the ability to buy that physical copy somehow, but I don't even know how that process would be, especially when it comes to console games, because I don't know if you need to go through some official channel to get those discs printed. I don't think you can just like have a DVD writer at home and just, print out your own PlayStation discs or whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
But it's definitely a dark time. And to see Nintendo, like, I had expected $100 games with Grand Theft Auto. Like, I thought that would be our entry. And I think we're going to see $100 games out of Nintendo, because they're very much like, oh, we're willing to scale the price depending on what we deem to be value for you. So we've got our $80 Mario Kart. Like, dude.
I will admit, I was very wrong about the $100 games. I had a video, now I unlisted it because I was like, whoops. But I mean, basically, what I was saying is, like, in that video it was specifically about GTA, was that I figured they were going to try to make it as accessible as possible, because Rockstar makes so much money off of GTA Online. That's their big money maker. It's not selling the game itself, but like making money off the microtransactions. And now with Nintendo being like, no, we're going like $80, $90 games. And it's like, okay, all right. Now that Nintendo has pushed the goalpost, now everybody's going to want to follow suit and maybe even try to go even further.
Yeah, a lot of people I've seen are defending it because they're like, oh, well, I've put a lot of time into this game, so, in terms of dollars per hours, it makes sense. And logically, you're correct. But games are so cheap to produce, like the physical media side of things. And if you're selling things digitally, it's basically free. So like when we were setting prices for games like, 10, 20 years ago, we had to lock in to say, hey, it's going to cost this much to produce it and distribute it, because it was really complex. And now we have really great logistics in the form of things like Amazon, Places like UPS and FedEx are a lot more efficient, where it is a lot cheaper to actually get these goods out to people. And then for the internet, for the digital downloads, there is no physical media, but you don't get a discount just because you buy digital. It's just all extra, revenue for the developer, in most cases the publishers.
Yeah.
So we're getting. Oh yeah, go ahead.
When Nintendo set the new price points and they revealed that digital is going to be cheaper than physical, that makes sense, and people would not mind it if the prices moved the other way. Like if they said, okay, digital is going to be cheaper, but rather than making it a $70 or $80 game, it's gonna be a $60 or $50 game. Like if it went the other way, people will be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why didn't you do that before? But with them bumping everything up, and then they're like, oh, the physical's gonna be an additional 10. Of course, everyone's upset about that.
Yeah, we're in a bad spot.
Yeah. One other thing I wanna cover with this topic is not only are they extremely anti-consumer with all the stuff that we just mentioned, but they're just clearly anti-everybody, anti-developer too, because not only do we see all these EULA changes and they're doing all these things that are anti-consumer, but Nintendo is one of the worst, if not the worst, when it comes to making patents. They have so many different game mechanic patents, and game mechanics should not be patented. No one should have ownership over what happens during a load screen. No one should have ownership over being able to throw a ball and then capture a creature with it. That should not be a patent.
Yeah, and there's the Pal World side of thing where it's really bad, where they're like, you made better games than us, how dare you, which is ridiculous. But another thing that I think is really bad is you have with the Switch 2, they have Switch 2 dev kits, and they're not giving dev kits to developers that they don't like for whatever reason. So if you have your game on Switch 1, it's supposed to just run on Switch 2 without issue. But if they have developers that they don't like, they're just like, yeah, we're not going to give you a dev kit so that you can't confirm that your game runs properly on this new hardware. And they're just like, trust us, we'll do some tests. And it's like, I've worked, where a lot of this submission process where you send stuff in, and I'll look at the metrics coming in, so do live service, and I'll be like, okay, I know the tester launched the game at this time. They got into the main menu and they left, and they were like, yeah, this is good enough for me. So we're just supposed to trust them that they're going to make sure that all of these games run on the Switch 2. And if they don't run properly on the Switch 2, people aren't going to blame the Switch 2. They're going to blame the developer. So they're screwing over developers by not giving them dev kits. And they're going to potentially screw over the consumer again by, they'll buy this game, on their digital store or whatever, and then it's not going to run properly. And this could have been fixed by the developer if they had just given out the dev kits like they should have. But instead, the way they treat developers in every aspect. The dev kit side of things is really bad because people are going to be upset at the developers if things don't go right. You've got Pal World, where they've made a fantastic game, and they're just like, well, how do we sue them into oblivion? We need to make an example of them. Hilariously enough, the whole Pal World thing could probably be resolved by a tweet from the president. He could probably be like, oh, I can't believe you ruining my favorite pals. This is unacceptable. And then they'd be like, sorry, don't tariff Nintendo. Because this is patents for the games industry are extremely destructive.
Yeah,
there is no positive for anything. It should not exist.
Yeah.
Full stop, period.
They don't even protect the creator because it ends up being owned by the corporation.
Yeah. And
even then, it's limiting innovation and evolution of video games. We're still video games, it's still compared to other mediums, it's still in its infancy. There's still lots of room for innovation. And then once you take ownership of a specific thing, like, for example, saying like, okay, here's this system in which you have these enemies who evolve and come back and want to, get revenge after you, and then they build stories. And we own it. Then like
We're not gonna use it.
Yeah, no one wants to make anything similar because they'll be too afraid to get sued.
Yeah, and it's frustrating that, because for like the patent side of things, at least in the United States. So the United States, they're kind of pulling out all the stops for things like AI, because that has the potential to generate a lot of revenue for a lot of American companies. So there's like a huge benefit in capturing that money and this new market in the United States. However, when it comes to things like games, people don't understand it at all in lawmaking capacities. They're just like, oh, whatever, like it's no big deal. Like they just don't get it at all. So if you were to even go to your Congress people and say, hey, this shouldn't exist, they don't play games. They don't know what they're talking about. Like I hear that some folks will play like League of Legends in Congress, and honestly that just shows how unintelligent they are, because like no one should be playing League. Like, let's be realistic. But like it's something where it could unlock a lot of possibilities and like help a lot of game developers. Maybe not the big places. The big places, they're a lost cause. But for a lot of these smaller developers, to not have them have to worry about these things. Because one of the early places I worked at, we got sued because we had an in-game store, and some patent person was like, oh no, we own in-game stores. And they were like, we got an email, it's like, you have to keep all of your emails, no one deletes anything, just as a heads up, because we're doing this thing. This is the lawsuit that we've been served with. Mm-hmm. And it's the fact that we've got things like this in the industry is terrible. And if these bigger companies were to really go all out in like the patent side of things to the best of their ability, like Nintendo, they could shut down a lot of indie studios where like they're running on fumes already. Like they're just working in their spare time to make a game, and if suddenly some company jumps in and says, oh, actually you've got this idea that we managed to get through the patent office, just the act of discovery and hiring a lawyer, that indie studio is not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just hugely destructive. And nobody wins. Like, even the patent trolls, they're not getting any money from these places. Like, you're just basically destroying a studio and enriching a bunch of lawyers in the process.
If you enjoyed that conversation, check out Oujirou's channel. His link will be down below. And let me know what you think about this new format. We're thinking about doing this once or twice a month. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this format. Thanks. Have a good one. Salam.